Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Keyforge versus Magic the Gathering, specifically through the turn order steps. So today we're going to look at the 5 turn order steps of Keyforge and the 5 turn order steps of Magic the Gathering. And basically we're going to be comparing the design work of Richard Garfield 1993 with the design work of Richard Garfield 2018. Right? So, which is pretty fascinating. I absolutely love Keyforge. I think it's one of the most fascinating games to come out in a very long time. I really think it's historically important because of the unique deck aspects, the fact that the decks are unique, the fact that the names on the decks are unique, the fact that the visual archon image is unique. It's pretty incredible. So it's just really an incredible product overall. So let's go ahead and step into it, right? And we're going to see where at each phase I'll say here's the points for each and here's the winner of each phase. Okay, so let's look at it. So one, let's define our terms. Okay, what are the 5 steps of Keyforge? What are the 5 steps of Magic the Gathering? Turn order steps. So 5 turn order steps of Keyforge are: forge a key, declare a house, play your cards, ready your cards, draw cards. That's the 5 steps, and we're going to boil that down to forge, declare, play, ready, draw. 5 words, okay? And then what is the Magic the Gathering 5 steps? So the Magic the Gathering 5 steps is begin, which is an untap and a draw. Main phase, where you can play any of your cards. Combat, where you use your creatures to fight. You use your creatures specifically to attack your planeswalker opponent, the other planeswalker, right? The other player, excuse me, who is a planeswalker. All right. Then main phase again, where you can do exactly the same thing you did before the combat phase. And then end step, and things trigger on that end step. Okay. Also, that's the overall sweep. I will say there is one point that goes to Magic the Gathering that Keyforge doesn't have, and that is the ability to play cards on the other person's turn. I think overall, for one player to play cards during an opponent's turn, I think overall that is a point to Magic the Gathering. Okay. Although I absolutely hate control decks, and it drives me bonkers that people can counter my spells, which it's really nice that I have to deal with that in Keyforge. Overall, the ability to bolt something and to do things in an opponent's turn is really interesting, and I like that complexity in Magic the Gathering. So the overall on the, so 1 point on the overall turn order steps goes to Magic Gathering, because Keyforge generally, almost all the time, in fact, I have never seen any exception to this, you play cards on your own turn and you don't play cards on the opponent's turn. All right, so let's start into the 5 steps. All right, step number 1 for Keyforge, it's going to be forge a key, and for Magic the Gathering, it's going to be begin, which is the untap and the draw. Okay, all right, forge the key. Definitely points go here to Keyforge, right? The idea of forging a key is really brilliant, because in 1993, Garfield was like, well, you're just going to attack your opponent. The same way you use later in combat, you're going to use your creatures to attack. They'll attack other creatures, or they'll be blocked by, they'll fight other creatures, or they'll be blocked by other creatures. Here, you're just going to attack directly your opponent, and you're going to kill them, right? And so it's incredibly combative, right, which is cool, but it's not innovative, and it's not new, and it's just like chess, and it's just like Battleship, and it's just like Stratego and a million other games. It's like kill your opponent, right? Which there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not innovative and it's not new, right? Whereas forge a key is important. It goes to the world building. So it goes to the world building of Crucible. Crucible is the world that Keyforge occurs on, and also it is a building aspect rather than a destroying aspect. And I think it just gives the whole game a different flavor. We all love combat. We all love fighting, right? Now, my favorite game in the whole world is Dungeons and Dragons, And in 5th edition, it's broken down the entire game into 3 words: exploration, combat, and interaction. And this is really important because it's saying you should be exploring, you should be killing. You know, like, there's going to be combat in this game. We know combat's exciting, and there's going to be interaction, right? Well, it's the same thing in Keyforge. It's Richard Garfield saying the combat is important. It's exciting. I know it's the bread and butter. It's why people are here, right? But the reality is there's more to life than simple combat. And the idea of building at the start of the turn, is really important. So I love that you have Keyforge has that forging the keys and having a building aspect and telling from the very beginning of the turn, this is about building, this isn't about killing. And I think it's just a better option, right? And there's more that can be done with that, right? And I also love, I love that you can slam the door on the game. You can end the game at the very beginning of your turn, right? You don't have to wait until the end of the turn, right? I love that aspect. And I also love that when you win, you say, I have forged 3 keys and I open the vault. You know, like that. It's just mysterious and cool, and it's just really nice ending. And I just love that forging the keys aspect. Whereas the untapping and the draw, there, you do untap, you do that in the ready step in Keyforge. You do draw, it's its own phase, right? And even there, Keyforge defeats Magic the Gathering, but we'll get those when we talk about those specific phases. All right, so so one over the other, Keyforge wins over Magic the Gathering for forging a key for step 1 forge versus step 1 begin, right? For MTG. All right, so let's move on to the second step. So the second step is declare in Keyforge, and in Magic the Gathering, it's main phase. Okay, so here in Keyforge, you are declaring your house, right? Now, what this is determining your mana pool, right? Now that happened in step 1 for Magic the Gathering. You untapped all your lands, and now you have 2 greens and 1 mountain, right? So you have 2 green mana and 1 red. But here in Keyforge, you determine your mana essentially in step 2. A lot of people think that Keyforge doesn't have mana. That's absolutely not correct. Keyforge really does have mana, right? And you're seeing it in the declare your house step, right? So in the declare step, what you're really doing is you're saying, I'm going to say Brobnar, right? Now what that does is it says, you have mana, you have all the mana, right? So you have mana just for Brobnar, right? And you can activate any Brobnar cards, you can fight with any Brobnar cards, you can reap with, well, not yet. Right, at this point, you're simply declaring. But it's going to allow you to reap with any Brobnar cards and to discard Brobnar cards and to do anything you want with Brobnar. And essentially, rather than having no mana, you have all the mana, right? Every single card in your hand. A lot of people think of it like, oh, I don't need mana. But I don't think that's really the case. Essentially, the way I see it is when you are declaring, you're giving yourself all the mana you need to play everything from that house, which is really fascinating, because within Magic, you can have the right color of mana and still not be able to cast a card because you don't have enough, right? So in Keyforge, it's removing that. So I love the way Keyforge is giving control of mana, determining what mana will be used and what mana will be halved in a turn. It gives it directly to the player, and it gives it for the choice thing. And this allows you to build your turns into strategy, right? And I just think it's awesome. I love this aspect of the game. So here, now the main phase for Magic, you're going to immediately be able to play sorceries, play instants. You're going to be able to play artifacts down, right? All that. Now, all that is good and all of that is there, but all of that is in Keyforge, right? There's nothing new or special there, right? And again, I truly believe Keyforge is a better game than Magic the Gathering. I think we're going to see that as we go, just phase by phase, right? And the reason for that is Richard Garfield was literally able to correct every problem that he had seen in 25 years of Magic within Keyforge, right? So, you know, so let's go forward. All right, so points here. Definitely Declare is a better step than main phase for Magic the Gathering. Keyforge defeating Magic the Gathering again, right? All right, third step. All right, it's play. You can play all your cards in Keyforge, and for Magic the Gathering, it's combat, the combat phase. Okay. Now, one of the things I love, again here, the play phase contains the combat phase, but you can mix it up, right? So within Keyforge, you can fight with a creature, then play an artifact, then reap with another creature, then fight with another creature, right? So you have far more control of all the control in Keyforge is in the player's hands, and they have way more control, the active player's hands, right? So they can determine, they can go in and out of main, they can go from casting spells and putting down upgrades and putting down artifacts, right? And putting down creatures, all that come in exhausted, but then they can do whatever they need to do with them in the order they wish. So there isn't this delineation between casting and combat. The sequencing can be much more complex, much more broad, much more vibrant, okay? So again, Keyforge is just smashing Magic the Gathering in the face, like just bam, like it's just better. There's no two ways about it. And so I love that ability to mix, you know, casting with I'm going to fight, I'm going to reap, I'm going to fight again, I'm going to fight again, I'm going to reap, I'm going to cast. Like, it's just like with it, where you can't do that in Magic the Gathering. You can't, you have one combat phase. So the combat phase in Magic the Gathering is I swing with my creatures, and I'm going to tell you which ones, right? Which ones I'm going to swing with. And so then you tap them to swing, right? And then the opponent chooses where they're going to block, right? Now, again, I think this is unrealistic because you need special cards in order to have creatures fight in Magic the Gathering. Where in Keyforge, the attacker says, I'm going to attack this creature, right? And then when they do attack that creature, they can destroy that creature. Armor comes in. Armor is more complex within Keyforge. I think it works in a better way where well, there is no armor at all within Magic the Gathering. It doesn't exist, right? So I like much better how you have more control with your attackers in Keyforge, and the person on the defense has less control within Keyforge. I think it's a better way to go. But mostly in the play phase, the part where Keyforge is beating Magic the Gathering is simply that sequencing, that ability to cast, fight, reap, fight, reap, cast, fight, reap, any order you want. That is incredible, and it much beats the main phase combat main phase of Magic the Gathering, right? So for step 3, we are seeing a defeat of Magic the Gathering by Keyforge, which I think is really cool. You know, so for step 3, it's Keyforge over the Magic the Gathering. Step 4, okay? Step 4 for Keyforge is ready. So this is fascinating. So in your play phase, everything comes in exhausted. Artifacts come in exhausted. Creatures come in exhausted. Tapped. Exhausted equals tapped, right? And even upgrades don't really come in tapped, but essentially they're being attached. If you put down a creature and then you put an upgrade on it, your upgrade is essentially tapped, right? So everything's coming in exhausted, tapped, right? And I love, and this was Richard Garfield showing this brilliance where he puts the readying stage, the untapped stage, at the end, right? Which makes, so one of the things that's really, why this is so much better on the Keyforge side is, you don't have to say this has summoning sickness, right? Because in Magic the Gathering, they come in untapped, but they can't attack, which doesn't make any sense. And you have to remember, oh, this has summoning sickness, when there's no visual cue to tell you this creature can't attack. Whereas in Keyforge, it's visually simple, it's elegant, it's straightforward, it makes more sense, right? And also, I think just putting the exhaust phase, the untapped phase, at the end also allows the players to be doing the most important things at the beginning of the turn, rather than the beginning of the turn being a whole bunch of homework, right? A whole bunch of homework that you have within Magic the Gathering. Like, you know, it's almost like, it'd be like if you could, if you had a party, right? And you can do the setup for the party after the party. Wouldn't that be awesome? I would love that, you know, like, if you could just have a party and then do the setup afterwards. Like, it's better. It's just better, right? Now, in Magic the Gathering, you have main phase again, which is just a repeat of the second, which is fine, and it's needed to be there because combat's in the middle. But again, you know, nothing new there, nothing special there. And the reason why was it was built in 1993. Like, you know, Keyforge is better because it was built in 2018, and it stands on the lessons that have been provided by Magic the Gathering. And that's why Keyforge is a better game than Magic the Gathering. All right, last phase, okay? So I definitely really like the ready phase over second main phase. Definitely goes to Keyforge. Keyforge is defeating Magic the Gathering for that phase as well. Last phase, okay? This is end phase for Magic the Gathering. This is almost like an instantaneous phase with it. I'm sorry, let's do Keyforge first. It's draw, right? Now, and then it's end for, last phase for Keyforge is draw. Last phase for Magic the Gathering is end. This end step for Magic the Gathering it's just instantaneous, right? It's just a trigger. And really, it's just used for, hey, I'm ending my steps, so here it is, right? Like, I'm ending my turn, and all my end of turn stuff triggers, right? But one of the things that I absolutely love about Keyforge with the draw phase is the draw is so much better. Okay, so drawing at the end, again, is putting all the homework at the end of the turn, right? So that you can start your turn with momentum and with excitement, which I love, right? And then the other thing that's really cool about the draw phase is you're drawing up to 6. This is very, very exciting. And then you can also, you know, control your hand size, which you can do in Magic as well. You can go up or down, you know. That all of that is just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I love that you're drawing up to 6. And here's the other one. I was blessed to play Pokemon CCG for about 3 years competitively with my youngest son, and we played a lot. And Pokemon has some advantages over Magic the Gathering, and one of the best ones is when you attack with your creature, your turn is over. You resolve the attack, your turn is over. I love any game where your turn is over. There's a visual cue that your turn is over, and you don't have to say my turn is over, right? And there's actually within Keyforge, it's ready, draw, right? You don't have to say anything to your opponent. If they're paying attention, they can go right into the turn, right? Whereas in Magic the Gathering, you have to say, I'm ending my turn, and you have to give an indication that your turn is ending, right? And it's just an extra step. And I've been there where somebody isn't communicative about that, and then you're sitting there for 2 minutes thinking they're thinking in their main phase, and they're not. And that doesn't happen nearly as often or at all in Keyforge, because Keyforge manages this with a warning of, here, I'm readying, you know, I'm going into my, so as soon as they start untapping, you know they're readying, right? And so you can say, okay, it's my turn, let me get ready, I'm going to fan my cards, let's do this, you know, and then you see that person drawing, and then you go, right? Like, it's so much better. The only time you don't see that in Keyforge is when they're drawing 0. They would say, I'm drawing 0, right? So they would have to talk in it. But there's all these circumstances where the actions of the player is telling the other player, I'm ready to go, right? You know, or I'm finished. You can go now, right? And they're saying that with their actions. They don't have to say it with their human words. And that's a big deal because you play so many rounds of this, right? And it's just, it takes less thought, and it's just a smoother transition from turn to turn. So step 5, Keyforge defeats Magic the Gathering. Also, chains, bam, kick to the mouth for Magic the Gathering. Chains is one of the biggest, coolest, smartest things ever put into any kind of unique deck game or CCG. It's absolutely brilliant. Keyforge kicks the crap out of Magic the Gathering when you look at it turn for turn, and when you look at it in turn order step by turn order steps. It's just beating it at every single turn order step of the game. Keyforge beats Magic the Gathering at every single turn order step of the game. Keyforge is a better game than Magic the Gathering. Period. End of sentence. Done. Right? I'm so excited about this game. That's what I think, though. What do you think? Right? I'd love to hear. You know, if you think I'm wrong, you think Magic is a better game than Keyforge, let me know, man. And I really appreciate you very much listening and watching today. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful day. Take care.